Welcome to footballgameplans.com, where football makes sense. That's Azar, the playbook, Emery Hunt, and I'm Tyler Merkovich, bringing you an NFC Divisional playoff preview. The Arizona Cardinals winning a shootout against Green Bay at home, 51-45 in overtime, while the Saints had a bye. They lost 3 in a row to end the season, albeit they rest their starters in the last game. A huge loss was Charles Grant from the defensive end spot. Kurt Warner's looking like he wants to make that bid for a surefire Hall of Famer. That's how great he's playing. Even without Bolden, he's getting Doucette in there, Breston, and the offensive line is showing up. But the secondary, let's talk about the secondary. Michael Adams is getting picked on a little bit. Do they have enough depth in that secondary to stop the Saints with that deep wide receiver core?
That is the #1 key. You look at Michael Adams, former UL Lafayette Raging Cajun himself, made a big play against the Packers, so go Raging Cajuns. But you look at Michael Adams, and you have to look at Ralph Brown. Those nickel and dime corners are going to have to match up against Robert Meacham as well as Lance Moore, who's going to be healthy. So you look at those two. Can they compete? Will they be able to hold up against those two? Because you know Colston as well as Henderson are going to man the flanks. So the matchup between the two nickel and dime corners and the slot receivers is going to be huge for this matchup. That is a key victory. If they can win that battle, they're going to pretty much shut down what Drew Brees wants to do, because he likes to work inside out, and that's where they get a lot of big plays from, those slot receivers.
And let's talk about Ken Wisenhunt. He has been calling great plays for Kurt Warner, especially when it comes to postseason time. Talk about what kind of plays he's going to need to call against this aggressive defense that Greg Williams operates.
Well, you know the Saints have struggled with stopping the run. So if I'm Wisenhunt, I wouldn't get away from the run too quick. The Cardinals have a talented tailback in Beanie Wells. He's powerful, he's big, he's quick. He's more like he reminds me a lot of Corey Dillon in his heyday with the Bengals. He's agile, he can finish runs, he's powerful. So don't get away from the run. That's going to limit that offense for the Saints getting on the field. And you don't want your offense to get on the, you don't want the Saints offense to get on the field, because it's going to be worse than what Green Bay was able to do. These guys, Green Bay didn't try to run the ball, but the Saints will try. The Saints do have 3 talented tailbacks to run the rock. So don't get away from the running game. You can effectively shorten the game by running the football and limit the Saints' possessions.
And can the Cardinals' offensive line held up? It was pretty good at times, but Green Bay was trying to get to Warner. They got to him sometimes, but with Mike Gandy out, Jeremy Bridges at left tackle, he is playing great. So talk about the protection schemes and how he could, again, play against an aggressive defense. Like Greg Williams is going to want to blitz and get Warner on the move and hit him in the mouth, because they don't want him back there picking apart the secondary.
Well, you look at Bridges. Bridges has a tough task this week. He has to block Will Smith, who comes in with 13 sacks. Will Smith can get after the quarterback. Now, if Charles Grant were playing, then you look at Levi Brown on the right side, probably wouldn't have to worry about Charles Grant getting pass rush, even though Charles Grant is an outstanding run defender. He would have came in with 6.5 sacks. But he has to worry about McCray and Spicer. Those 2 guys can get to the quarterback. So now you have the problem of guarding against 2 pass rushers, which could prove to be detrimental for Warner, because Warner's not known as a guy that can get outside the pocket. He rather gets rid of the ball quick. So those tackles are going to have to hold up against Spicer and McCray on the right side and Will Smith on the left side. And you know they're going to bring a blitz. So the interior line has to recognize the blitz up front and be able to squeeze down and pick up the interior blitz. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day for that protection.
Absolutely. Now let's turn it over to the Saints. Let's look here. Sean Payton, he's a great play caller also. So we got 2 great play callers. Talk about that. How is he going to attack that defense that had problems stopping the run late, but it's talented. They make plays, but they give up the yardage in bunches.
Well, the Cardinals run a 3-4, and one thing that we always say about 3-4 is hard to game plan against 3-4 as far as pass protection wise. But there are natural bubbles to run against a 3-4. And if you look at the Saints when they played the Dolphins, when they played the Jets, when they played New England, all 3-4 teams, the Saints were able to gash these guys in the running game. So Sean Payton has to remember to work that balance. The running game will allow your passing game to get deep. Don't give up the run so fast. You do have Pierre Thomas. He may be playing with some sore ribs. Don't run him, run Bell, run Hamilton if he's active. Also get Bush involved in the running game. Bush has over 5 yards of carry, so he's doing well running the football. So don't get away from the run as well too quickly, because you can't run against this 3-4. There's natural bubbles against the 3-4.
Yeah, Mike Bell, I think that could be the guy. He could be pretty big. And now, I mentioned it about 2 or 3 times segment already, Greg Williams and that defense. They've been relying on turnovers all year, and it's evident when that defense isn't getting turnovers. They are very average. So, talk about the defensive scheme. How are they going to stop? Bolden's probably going to come back, and it's going to be even more aggressive passes from Kurt Warner. So, what's the plan for the defense?
Well, you look at the biggest thing the Saints have coming into this game is health on the defensive side of the football with the secondary. You have Greer starting now at full strength. You have Porter starting out at full strength. So that means you don't have to see Michael Jenkins until a nickel and dime situation in which you have Gay coming in as well too. So now you have those guys playing in better positions to make plays. So because you've got those two talented cornerbacks covering those two talented wide receivers, that's going to be a good matchup. And that's a good matchup to watch. But the real thing is the fact that those guys interior, inside the slots, are going to have to play ball, which Greer and Porter being back allows Sharper to be more of a center fielder like he was in the first half of the season when he was making all those big plays. So the health of the Saints secondary is huge coming in this game. Now they're going to be able to do a lot more blitzing. Now they feel more comfortable showing a lot more different disguised blitzes and zone blitzes because they do have those two starters back at cornerback at full strength.
And Mike McKenzie and Chris McAllister, two guys they've picked up during the season. They still got those guys who
they've cut McKenzie and McAllister cut. They picked up another guy, but they picked up those guys to build because the other two guys were out. They needed the depth, but now they got those two guys healthy. That's going to help out that secondary a lot. And
we'll talk about X factors. I think Mike Bell against that run defense of the Arizona Cardinals can be a big boost for the Saints. What is your X factor?
Well, I look at Reggie Bush healthy this game against the Arizona Cardinals linebackers. That is huge. Last game when you looked at the Cardinals versus the Packers, it was more so defensive line, secondary. The linebackers were non-existent, and there were a lot of big plays across them to be made. So now you look at the Saints able to get those running backs in the pass pattern. Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, those guys can catch the football out of the backfield. That is a matchup to exploit because I would take Reggie Bush over Gerald Hayes or any of those outside linebackers, Cheeky O'Keefe, anybody outside that can cover in that 3-4. They're going to have to put those guys to the limit. I like the Saints in this matchup. I'm going to tell you why. The Saints have two things going for them that the Cardinals don't have one of, and that's tight end play. If you have tight ends that can get down the field, that's not only does that stretch out the 3-4 defense, but it also makes those safeties have to cover. You don't want Adrian Wilson covering. You don't want Antrell Rowe having to cover someone man-to-man because the Saints do have Shockey as well as Dave Thomas. That's going to stretch out that defense. Now you have to worry about those 4 wide receivers plus 2 tight ends plus the running backs in the backfield. It's too much for the Arizona Cardinals defense to cover. It's going to stretch out that defense.
And we saw what Jermichael Finley did to that Arizona secondary as a tight end. So you like the Saints. I like the Saints also. I think Arizona can keep this close as well. This will be a good game, but I'm going to go with the Saints here.
If Arizona doesn't turn the ball over, it's going to be close. You look at the last matchup they played in 2007, Arizona had a litany of turnovers, and that was able, I know it's 2 different teams, but the same football element is the fact you don't turn the ball over, you give yourself a good shot. They can't turn the football over.
For more, visit footballgameplan.com/NFL.